Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance channel. It is once again time for, you guessed it, shop tour time. Here we are at January, I think it's January 11th. I still don't have a calendar. So, anyway, actually we're going to start right here because I want to start the shop tour. No, I'm not going to start right here. I'm going to give you a little background as what's going on right over. I've got a lot going on the bench right here. This is actually one of the SMX engines that I'm working on. You can see these beautiful Molly pistons. They even have the little Mazda logo on them. And so the bottom end is all together here on this one. So SMX, Spec MX-5. This is the new Mazda Spec series using NC MX-5s. So these are the ones that have the spec heads that I showed you with the CNC porting that came from Roush. Special pistons from Mazda. You're not allowed to basically do anything to the bottom ends. You can't even balance them. It's right in the rules. You have to just try and match things up that are stock and make them as good as they can. But you guys caught me right in the middle of valve lash on this valve train. So these are a little unique in the fact that every lifter is its own thickness. So it's not like, you don't have an adjustment because there's no rocker. You don't have shim under buckets like some of the high performance stuff. So you can see over here, I've got a million different thicknesses of shims just for these engines. Because for years and years and years, this is kind of what I figured you had to do, and it's one way of doing it. And you can see I probably have inside of these boxes, I don't know, hundreds of lifters that are different thicknesses. So today's special shout out goes out to Joe McClugan because a couple years ago he turned me on to this little tool. This is a bucket lifter grinder assembly. You can get it from Goodson, and what you can do is you can adjust the height of this grinder. It's basically just a die grinder with this stone on the top, and you can adjust the height, and you can go down in here and you can ever so slightly take a little bit off. So if you've got some lifters that are 2-3 thousandths a little too thick and you don't have anything else, this little grinder will take off just a little bit. You can get it grinding and you can adjust it just a little at a time as you're grinding. And if you have a tool like this that measures, you can see it goes up and down, and it's got a nice dial indicator. I can go in here and I can measure these lifters very precisely and know exactly what thickness they are. So when I'm doing my valve lash, I can get these perfect. So I'm a real stickler on getting the valve lash perfect. So that's kind of one of the important things that I'm working on here, because it just never seems like the valve stem heights are all the same. It's nearly impossible. Now you could install the valve, measure it, check it with the cam and the lifter, and grind every stem and get it perfect that way. Takes way longer than using this really cool tool. You still are going to need a selection of lifters, but thanks Joe for turning me on to this. I've probably used it for 2 or 3 years. I haven't showed you guys this because you never caught me in the middle of doing this, but today you did. So we're going to get this taken care of. Already CC'd the cylinder head, checked the piston deck height. I've got a couple of head gaskets coming from Mazda. You get about 5 different thicknesses of head gaskets because these engines have to be 11-to-1 compression max. So I've got a couple head gaskets going for these 2 motors we're working on, and we're going to get these together so these guys can go. I think their goal, these are a couple guys out of Kansas City, but their goal is to make the Super Tour down in NOLA in February. I think it's mid-February. So I need to get these done so they can get them in the car. Over here, over the weekend, I spent some time with the Mazda 2, and you can see I've got the cylinder head sitting on the disassembly rack here. I've got a couple of valves out. Working on, and you guys are going to see a little bit of what I've got going on when we do this. Obviously not going to give away all my tricks of the trade, but working on developing a package. So similar to what I've done with, say, the F production Miatas or the E production Miatas, or even some of the B18 engines in F production and STL, I'm working on an engine package for this Mazda 2, because I think that we may end up getting some people interested in coming over to H production, whether it's a convert from B spec or whether it's someone that wants to build a new H production car. But look at this little block. These are these 1500 blocks. I mean, it's like the weight of a cylinder head. That's how big these things are. It's kind of funny, but that's kind of what I'm working on. I've got a couple more things over by the Mazda 2 I'll show you when we work ourselves that direction. Did get all of the differentials completed. They should be leaving today. They're sitting here on the forklift ready to go. Those will be getting out of here. I did just get in the roll cage material for the RX-8, so that just came in yesterday. So we'll be getting after the RX-8 in the next week or so. I don't think that Aaron's really needing it this time of year. We did get about 6 inches of snow the other day, so it is really cold and really snowy here, so this is a good time to be in the shop working on stuff like this. We will get some progress done very soon. Hopefully by next shop tour you guys will see some action going on here as well. So the Caterham is just sitting here completed, ready to go. Obviously another car that can't be driven in the snow, so we're just going to hold on to this for a little bit until the snow melts a little and we can get here. A few weeks ago you guys saw that I was working on those B18 motors for the endurance cars. So this is one, and we've got the car on the dyno, and it's actually running pretty decently, but we've got this strange high RPM miss, and we've kind of gone through a million different things. Come to find out that these Honda distributors, these factory distributors, are a real problem. So we left the car strapped on the dyno. We're going to change some distributors this afternoon and see if we can get this thing to run smoothly. It's making good power down low, but it's just, we've got a miss up high. So trying to sort these kinds of things out can be a little frustrating. If you've ever been through it, you know what I'm talking about. But that's just part of racing, right? If you can't deal with problems in racing, you probably shouldn't be racing. So the Mazda 2 is still sitting up here, working on a bunch of little different things when it comes to, I'm going to call it actually runoffs prep. So we talked about how I took the transmission apart, and I've got some transmission issues going on that I need to deal with, that we're going to be developing another thing to develop for this class. But the other thing I'm working on is obviously the engine. And one of the things that I want to work on here is, so we've got our oil pump pickup. This is the bottom cradle, which is actually the main caps. So the main caps are part of the cradle. And then you've got your oil pump pickup here, as you can see. And below that is your oil pan. Well, this oil pan is just wide open. So when you have a wide open oil pan like this, when you're going into the corner, the oil sloshes, can move away from your pickup. Now that's also one of the reasons why we have an AccuSump, right? Which is good. But I'm working on actually a baffle plate that will, I'm going to call it more of a windage tray, that will slow the oil coming down into the pan. And the reason that we do that is it gives the oil a chance to de-aerate a little bit, and it's not sloshing around as much in the crankshaft. But the other thing that I'm working on, and if you've ever bought one of Mazda's baffle plates for your Miata, I was the one that kind of developed that. As a matter of fact, we'll do a second shout out, because probably about 20 years ago when we first started working on Miatas, my dad was helping me, and he actually cut out the very first Miata baffle plate that we first started using in the oil pans for Miatas. That baffle plate I have re-engineered a little bit, and Mazda sells them now, and we sell them by the hundreds. So if you've ever gotten a Miata baffle plate from Mazda, you kind of know how it got developed, because I'm going to show you how this works. So I'm going to develop a baffle plate for the Mazda 2. So what we're going to try and do here, it's kind of hard to see because I'm just starting on my template, I'm going to come up with a template that will go in here. Obviously, we need room for our oil pump pickup, and we're going to need, and that's going to give us a little bit of room for the oil to come down into the pan. But the idea here is when you go into the corner, that oil doesn't slosh up the sides and get, you know, away from your pickup. And one of the things you can do is, and this is going to be a weld-in, this is going to be something that I tack into the pan, and this will help keep the oil down in the bottom of the pan. One of the interesting things that I noticed about this pan is it's got this big channel right here. So I'm probably going to end up putting in a door, a hinged door that will allow oil to come in and not allow oil to go out. So that way, in the way that this sits in the car, and I was kind of thinking about this because at the June sprints I was having some trouble in the carousel. When you go into a right-hander, all of this oil is going to come up into this valley and away from your pickup. If I can control that oil and keep it from sloshing around too much in the bottom here, that'll make a big difference. The other thing we may end up doing is I might end up putting some stanchions that come down around the pickup tube, which really can keep the oil in there. This is just kind of the prototype that I'm working on. Just trying to develop, trying to make it better than it was. Like I said, my whole goal here is to develop a package for the Mazda 2s, see if we can get some interest in running a little more modern car in H production and getting more people interested in that. I think it's going to be, I know that it's a really good chassis and a good platform. See if we can get some people interested in that. So that's kind of the Mazda 2 update for this week, because the car's basically ready to go. I still need to corner weight and align it, and I still haven't gotten a battery for my tire temperature pyrometer, but we've got time. So chip away, thinking about the runoffs already and how we can be prepared for that. So hope you guys aren't dealing with too much cold like we are around here. It's going to get really cold this weekend. I think the high on Sunday is supposed to be like 2 above 0. So some of you guys in the southern states have it a lot better than that, and some of you guys in the northern states have it a lot worse than that. So keep warm or keep cool, whichever way you want to go. Last shout out, obviously, we had our first race of the year down in Homestead in Miami. I had a couple of guys running down there, Ken Kennard and in his Integra, who is our current national champion F production, won both days, and Mark Webber finished second both days in F production. So those guys are heading off to Sebring this weekend, along with a bunch more customers that are actually going to go to the first Super Tour of the year. So Cliff Ira's going to be down there, Mike Taylor's going to be running, Doug Piner's going to be running his BMW and E production. I think Don Tucker's going to be down there, all JPM engine customers. So good luck to you, all of you guys that are going to Sebring. Have fun, be safe, stay warm, and look forward to giving a little bit of a race report next week. Have a great rest of your week, guys. Take care.